My mother forced me to get tested as a kidney donor for my sister who ruined my life. But when the results came back, they revealed a dark family secret that changed everything for all of us. Was I wrong to refuse? My sister Alicia has been struggling with kidney failure for over 6 months now. At first, she was handling it well, following her treatments and keeping it together while waiting for a kidney transplant. But lately, things have gone downhill. Her health has declined, and now doctors say she absolutely needs a kidney transplant. Because of this, my mom is asking me to get tested to see if I'm compatible with Alicia, so I can donate one of my kidneys to her. But I wouldn't be writing this if I was certain I wanted to do it. The truth is, Alicia and I don't have a close relationship, and in recent years, I'd say our relationship has been non-existent. When we were little, she made my life even more difficult than it already was. It all started when kids at school began bullying me. I was small for my age, a bit nerdy, and struggled with my weight, a perfect cocktail for other children to target me. Usually, it was comments and jokes at my expense. But there were a couple of occasions when things got physical, and I ended up getting beaten up. That's when my teacher stepped in and told my parents what was happening. My parents thought Alicia could help me since she was a year older and we attended the same school. But not only did she not defend or help me, she didn't do anything to improve the situation. In fact, the only thing she did was make it worse. She joined my bullies and fed them more ammunition to torment me. She gave them personal details about things she knew, because we lived in the same house. She made sure they had all the information to make their attacks even more painful, And it wasn't just that. Sometimes she would join them, and together they would mock me during lunch, laughing, ridiculing me, and continuing until they made me cry. I felt completely alone. I told my parents about this, but she played innocent, telling them I was lying, that I must be confused or exaggerating. So my parents believed her. They told me to stop blaming her and to focus on ignoring the real bullies, as if that would work. Nobody saw what was happening, or they didn't care enough to act. All this bullying lasted until I finally graduated and went to college. College isn't a place bullies usually attend, since good grades are needed there, and since they were always busy bullying, they rarely achieved that. It's a bit of karma these people receive for everything they did. There, I met my first boyfriend, whom I'll call Will. Eventually, I brought him home to meet my family. My parents liked him, but Alicia's reaction was different. Later, I discovered that Alicia had looked up Will on social media without telling me, and had sent him messages saying she wanted to see him. She did this behind my back. When I found out, I told Will I didn't like him having her as a friend on social media. He told me he would block her, and I believed him. But he only did it while I was with him and then unblocked her behind my back. Not only that, but he had started seeing her secretly. I had no idea about any of this until one of my close college friends saw them together. She saw Will and Alicia in his car and immediately came to tell me what she'd witnessed. As you can imagine, when I confronted Alicia, everything exploded. I asked her how she could be so desperate to mess with the guy I was seeing. But for Alicia, this wasn't a problem at all. She was proud of what she'd done. In fact, she boasted about having slept with Will before I did. And no, there was no apology from her. I took the issue to our parents. My dad was very upset about what I told him and was angry about what Alicia had done. But my mom's reaction was different. She told me she didn't believe me and that she needed to talk to Alicia and hear the whole story before deciding who to support. It wasn't whether she believed Alicia had been with my boyfriend. It was that she didn't believe Alicia was completely to blame for it and that maybe there was a reason she did it. She finally talked to her, and my mom took her side. She told me that Alicia had said she was in love with Will, and the only reason she did what she did was because she felt Will was in love with her too, and it was natural that they ended up together. Even if that were true, which I highly doubt, I think they just slept together because he's a horn dog and she just likes to hurt me. There was still no reason to do it behind my back. They should have at least told me and then done whatever they had to do. To my mother, none of that mattered, which only helped to provoke my pain. To make it worse, she said, "Well, maybe that boy wasn't for you. Maybe he and your sister would be happier together." She even went as far as saying he was too handsome for me, and that if I were with someone closer to my level, they wouldn't cheat on me. She said it was a lesson I should learn. Yes, she had managed to turn things around, and now everything that had happened was because I wasn't attractive enough, and that's why I deserved to be cheated on. I might expect this from a stranger, from one of Alicia's friends, or from someone who doesn't care about me. Well, maybe my mother doesn't care about me at all. Until that moment, I had a slight idea that my mom preferred Alicia more. Now, I had no doubts. Up until then, it had been small things, but this was blatant. She wasn't making any effort to hide her favoritism. Look, I know parents have favorites. It's impossible for them not to. But some parents at least try to make it not noticeable or attempt to treat all their children equally. My mother wasn't like that. It wasn't as if she told me, "Screw you, I like Alicia better and you can die." But my mom and my dad. I told my parents that Alicia could keep my ex because to me they were both trash. And trash goes well together. Far away from me so it doesn't stink. I also said that if my parents accepted this trash, they were a bit trashy too. So everyone to the garbage dump and as far away from my life as possible. I told them I was sick of all of them. My parents tried to argue and change my mind, but it was weak and unconvincing. They weren't willing to make any real effort, as if this mattered very little to them or even benefited them in some way, so I knew I was on the right track. Since then, I've kept my distance from my family. I barely know anything about them except for the occasional news I hear from distant relatives with whom I still maintain contact. A few years ago, I heard through other people that Alicia had married my ex. Yes, the same ex who she stole from me, so we can say it was a love story after all. It disgusted me to know she was still with that guy, because he was the kind of person who could cheat even with a sister. But deep down, I knew they were perfect for each other. My life has changed a lot recently. I'm married to a wonderful husband, and I even thank my sister for helping filter out my ex. But earlier this week, I received a short email from my mom asking me to call her because it was a family emergency. I told her I wouldn't call, but she could tell me what was so urgent that she needed to contact me after years. It was about my sister and her health issue. By the way, I had already heard from some of our relatives about Alicia's kidney failure, so the news itself wasn't a surprise at all. But my mom's request was. She asked me to consider getting tested to see if I could be a potential kidney donor for Alicia. That's why she wanted to have this conversation through another medium. I didn't respond to that email, and you're right. I don't want to get tested or give her my kidney. But here's the real problem. My paternal grandparents have gotten involved. They know our family situation, and despite cutting ties with my parents, my grandparents have always been in my life and supported me. My grandparents believe there's nothing wrong with getting tested. They say if I'm not compatible, then there's no problem, and nothing would change. But if it turns out I am compatible, then I can take my time and decide whether or not I want to donate my kidney to my sister. Clearly, they want to help, but I feel very uncomfortable with this whole situation. I'm afraid that if I am compatible, my family will pressure me even more to go ahead with the kidney donation. I don't want to feel obligated or guilty if it's in my hands to save the life of my awful sister. I'm only considering this because it's my grandparents, and they've always been there for me. I owe them too much, including part of the money I used for my education. So if they're asking me this, I should at least consider it, just for them. So here I am on Reddit, asking if I would be the bad guy for deciding not to get tested. Not for my sister, but because my grandparents are asking me to. Update 1. My mom contacted me again, insisting that I get tested to see if I could help my sister. It wasn't the first time she had told me this, but this time I felt I couldn't keep ignoring her or giving her vague answers. I decided to be completely honest, so I told her directly that I wasn't willing to do it. I explained that I didn't want to get involved with my sister in any way, and that this was my final decision. I thought that by being direct, she would understand, or at least my position would be clear, and she would stop bothering me. But she wasn't willing to listen to no as an answer. She told me she expected me to step up and help my sister regardless of how I felt about it. For her, what I wanted didn't matter. According to her, my sister deserved a chance to live, and apparently, I was the only one who could give it to her. But I told her it wasn't my responsibility to save her life, which provoked her and made her angry to the point where she said, "Your life isn't worth much anyway." The reason she said this has to do with an explanation she gave in her email. It was all because Alicia has a son and I don't, and as a mother, she needed to overcome this to be there for her child. She tried to somehow fix or justify her statement by saying, this was more important than our differences. There was an innocent involved who was my nephew, and I should do it at least for him. I could hate my sister and them, but he didn't deserve to go through the loss of his mother. That could be an argument, but coming from my mother, I knew it was still all about Alicia and what she needed. I don't think she cared much about her grandson. It was simply her way of making me feel guilty, so I would agree. My father has also contacted me to join the Save Alicia crusade, as if she were some kind of beached whale. He begged me to get tested and asked me to do it for him. He argued that Alicia could die without a transplant, and warned me that I might regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't at least check if I was compatible. I've said no to both of them. Update 2. Before you say anything about me getting tested, which I know many of you won't like, let me tell you why I did it. On one hand, and this is the most important, my grandparents pressured me to do it. I owe them a lot, not just financially but emotionally, because they've been there for me in many situations. A couple of times I was very sick in my dorm, and it was my grandmother who traveled there with soup and stayed in town for a few days to take care of me. And that's just one example, so I owe them too much to not do them this favor. Plus, they promised me that if I was compatible, it would be my decision and only mine to donate my kidney. They just wanted me to get the test done. The results revealed two interesting things. First, I'm not compatible with my sister. That in itself was a relief. There's no need to make the decision to donate my kidney anymore, and it doesn't make sense for them to keep pressuring me. This ends it once and for all. But the second revelation was the most interesting part of the matter. My genetic markers didn't match my father's. The results made it clear that the man I had called Dad my whole life was not actually my biological father. Now that was a bombshell in every sense, because I never imagined my mother could have cheated on my father. Although with the days passing, I began to realize that this was the perfect explanation for why my mother hated me so much. It doesn't explain why my father also showed favoritism, because his reaction upon finding out made it clear he knew nothing about this. My grandparents were the first to find out, and it was they who gave the news to their son. My dad was devastated, which is why I'm convinced he didn't know. According to my grandmother, he wasn't even in a condition to say anything coherent a few minutes after receiving the news. My grandmother had to stay with him for a few hours because he was in a state that was concerning to them. My mom, on the other hand, didn't expect this to happen. She had no idea that I could discover the infidelity through a compatibility test, so she was surprised to say the least. Not only had she received the hard blow of knowing she wasn't compatible with her golden daughter who was dying, but now all her secret had been exposed. She sure didn't see that coming. For me, this discovery gives me some answers about why my mother has been the way she has been with me, but it also leaves me with more questions. I don't know who my real biological father is, and I don't know if I want to meet him. On one hand, he's my biological father, and I could have intentions of meeting him, but do I want to meet someone who is capable of getting involved with a married woman? These are my biggest doubts at the moment. My maternal grandparents also found out about the results, and they're furious. They're demanding answers from my mom, as well as from my dad, in case he also knew about it and is just acting. But instead of handling it maturely and telling the truth, my mom has completely shut down. She refuses to talk about it with anyone. When I confronted her myself, hoping to get some clarity, she had the audacity to say the results were wrong. She's denying everything as if that could erase the evidence. We did a paternity test with my father just to confirm, and the results said the same thing. She has said she's as surprised as I am to find out the truth, but I don't believe any of that. I'm sure she knew about it. She doesn't realize that she's hurting many people, like my dad, my grandparents, and me, but she doesn't care too much and just says that this moment isn't the best for this, that we should be worried about saving my sister right now. That's not a priority for me, and if I have to be honest with you, it never has been. So now we're in a kind of limbo with everything. My father has gone to live with my grandparents. My mother continues looking for a donor for my sister and refuses to give any kind of information. If she continues this way, the only option is to look for other alternatives to discover everything, which will make things worse for my mother. My grandparents have been pressuring her more and more, but she just closes up and hides behind my sister's illness. My father also wants to do a paternity test with my sister, but neither my mother nor my sister wants to do it. I think my sister is my father's daughter. That's why my mother loves her so much. She's part of the perfect family, and I'm the mistake that has to be hidden under the rug, which could ruin everything. Well, here I am, ruining everything, but without having caused it. I'll update you soon when I have more information. Update 3. My dad has decided to divorce my mom. Even though I thought they wouldn't get to that point, my father has always been one to follow what my mother said. He never had a reason to favor my sister, but he still followed my mother's orders. I thought he would do it now too. Well, good for him, I suppose. As for my mom, after days of pressure from my dad, my grandparents, and the rest of the family who have also gotten involved, she finally gave in and revealed the truth to everyone. I don't know if it was out of guilt, the weight of constant questions, or simply because the truth was inevitable, but she finally spoke. I think it was because she was looking for my father not to divorce her, but I don't think it's out of love or to keep the family together, but because a divorce due to infidelity here will leave her in a very bad financial position, although those are just my speculations. My mom and I aren't best friends who have tea while discussing this. It turns out that just before getting pregnant with me, she had an affair with her personal trainer. She had been seeing him secretly behind my dad's back. The affair only lasted a few months before my mom ended it, convinced that no one would ever find out. But then, when she got pregnant with me, she always had the doubt of whether I was really my dad's daughter. But due to statistics, the number of times she was with my father versus the number of times she was with the trainer, she assumed I wasn't. After I was born, she just wanted the truth to be buried as deep as possible, although deep down she knew. Yes, seeing me all the time was a reminder of that, and that's why she hated me. She told my father those exact words. Well, I already knew it from the facts. Still, she tried to move on with her life. Instead of doing the right thing and owning up to her mistake, she buried it for decades, hoping it would never come to light. But you can't keep something like that hidden for long. She brought this disaster upon herself. Her lies, her infidelity, her secret. If she hadn't insisted I get tested, if she hadn't pressured me to help Alicia, none of this would have come to light. But I guess it was fate that I would discover the truth. I'm grateful I got tested. Now my mom is facing the consequences, and honestly, she deserves it. My dad is devastated. My grandparents are furious with her. Everyone feels betrayed and wants nothing to do with her. Even my maternal grandparents, with whom I've always had a more distant relationship, are ashamed of what my mom did. They can't believe she kept such a big secret hidden for so many years. Since my mom's confession, suddenly everyone who previously barely cared about me now feels a lot of sympathy for my situation. Even distant relatives, people I hadn't spoken to in years, have reached out to see how I'm doing. As for my mom, she has lost everything. My dad kicked her out of the house, and now she's living in a motel while he moves back into the house. She has called me several times asking for money and help, but I simply don't want to offer her anything. And although it seems impossible, I hate her more than before discovering this. It's as if the more I think about everything she's done, the harder it is for me to show her empathy. My dad is dealing with a lawyer about the divorce process, according to what my grandparents tell me, the paternal ones. As for my sister's case, she obviously still needs a kidney. My parents aren't viable candidates to donate due to their own health problems, and time is running out for her. I only know what my paternal grandparents tell me about her because I haven't gone to visit her at any point. They say she looks weak and tired. Her condition is clearly not improving, both physically and emotionally. The surprising thing is that Alicia has apologized to me through my grandparents for the past. I don't know if they're genuine or if it's just the situation that has made her this way. Maybe she wants to repair her mistakes if she's finally going to depart from this world. I don't think that changes things for us at this point. Update 4. 3 months have passed since my last update, and much has changed. First of all, my parents are now officially divorced. My dad has focused on rebuilding his life, while my mom has tried to fix things in her own way. However, it's evident that she has lost a lot: her family, her credibility, and her stability. She now lives alone and has been practically isolated by the rest of the family. Even her side of the family hasn't been very happy with her. During this time, she has tried to communicate with me several times, but I never responded. I no longer care what she does. I've realized I need to move on with my life, regardless of what happens with hers. As for Alicia, she still hasn't found a compatible kidney donor. Good or bad news, it depends on who you ask. My dad and my mom would probably say it's not good, my grandparents as well, but for me, it's news that I'm indifferent to. Yes, my father has done a DNA test with her, and it has proven what we expected, that she is his biological daughter. My mother has refused to tell me the name of my biological father, but I don't care anymore. I found the information through other means, so my mother can't use that excuse to keep me in her life anymore. Since everything blew up, she has been asking for my help because she feels very lonely, and she has used the excuse of telling me or not telling me about my biological father to keep me close to her. But I only asked her directly once, and that was it. I sought my own answers elsewhere. I still haven't met him, but I will soon. My husband, whom I haven't talked much about here because he hasn't been directly involved in the drama, will accompany me. He has always been by my side throughout this whole situation. And as for those who asked if I've met my nephew or plan to do so, the mere idea of seeing my ex makes me very angry, so it's something I think I won't do. My grandparents have said they could organize a meeting at their house where my ex wouldn't be when I mention this to them, but I don't know if I want to do it. I don't feel any connection with that child. It's so weird saying this. Update 5. This update was always planned to tell you about my meeting with my biological father. But there's a more important issue I must address first. My sister has lost her life, and I think it would be best to start this update by mentioning it. Not because I respect her, but because I consider it something more important based on what you've told me in the comments to my previous update. She didn't get a transplant in time, and her condition worsened overnight. According to what my grandmother told me, she seemed to be doing well and would have a bit more time, but she suffered a total collapse and didn't survive. In less than a week, she went from improving, at least compared to previous weeks, to losing her life. Her funeral has already been held, but I didn't attend. I wasn't planning to, but I also didn't receive an invitation from my mother, who organized it. Not that I needed one, but I knew my mother wouldn't have wanted me there after everything that happened. My grandparents told me I could accompany them if I wanted to say goodbye, but that they would respect my wishes if I decided not to go. I don't know if there's anything more to tell about the funeral since I wasn't present, and nothing noteworthy happened. Now, about my biological father. He's still a personal trainer, and without a doubt, I have a great physical resemblance to him. Even my husband has mentioned it to me. We haven't done a paternity test to confirm it, because I didn't feel the need to do so. My feelings when meeting him were that he doesn't seem to be as bad a person as I imagined, but at the same time, he got involved with a married woman. He knew it, and he says he regrets it. But in my eyes, it's hard to set that aside. So whether or not he's really my biological father won't change anything. I've only seen him once, and that was enough. At this moment, I only have a relationship with my grandparents. I haven't spoken with my father, who attended the funeral, nor with my mother or anyone else in the family. It's not because my father hasn't tried, but if we didn't have a solid relationship, when I thought he was my biological father, I don't see the point in having one now either. I also haven't met my nephew, and regarding the comments about my decision not to do so, apparently, it's not so wrong for me to feel this way. If this seems like a final update, it's because I'm trying to make it one. I'm trying to give you a general overview of my life now, because at least on my part, I think I won't update again.